Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Page 194, release of funds for EMA.
So moved.
Second.
Tim.
Yes.
Fred.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Page 195, ditch maintenance.
Move to pay.
Second.
Joe.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Fred.
Yes.
Page 196, transfer of funds for Keep Hardin County Beautiful.
So moved.
Second.
Fred.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Page 197, bills.
Move to pay.
Second.
Tim.
Yes.
Fred.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Page 198, authority for the engineer to advertise for bids.
So moved.
Second.
Joe.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Fred.
Yes.
We have two documents that need signed. The first is a Title 4D between CSEA and the Clerk of Courts.
So move to sign.
Second.
Joe.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Fred.
Yes.
The next one is a Title 4D between CSEA and the Domestic Relations Court.
So moved to sign.
Second.
Fred.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
I just have a note down there that the website is up to date. When you look at 2024, for some reason it puts December 1st and then it starts January. It's not that way on our editing side of it, but it is that way on the website side of it. So I have a question out about that, but other than that, it's all there.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
I attended the multi-county jail meeting yesterday. Nothing out of the ordinary, general business, but, we did order some new, cameras for the correctional officers, especially in holding area.
You said the holding area?
Yeah, for the holding, when they bring in prisoners and process them. They need updated, old cameras are obsolete basically, can't get parts anymore. And it wasn't in the budget, so. Count's been down lately, especially for our department.
And Tori, you may want to also mention too that the three of us all attended the DOC meeting last night.
Can you guys tell me what the North Annex portion of your meeting is? Tori, what's the North Annex portion of your agenda?
Richard and a gentleman to discuss.
Oh, but you're not going there. Oh, you're sick. Cause I'm like, I don't know, are we traveling? You're like, no, I'm staying here today. Okay, I didn't know if I needed to, how much time I had. Sweet.
Come on in, come on in, sit. Soft seat, soft seat.
Those are,
Soft seat.
that's for guys.
Extra guys.
That's for, John and David.
Oh, David's coming.
Okay,
That's what we're waiting
Have a
on,
seat.
the state.
Let them have a seat.
Well, I'll have a seat.
You can have a cushion?
Why is everybody worried about my
I don't know,
cushiony butt?
Because I've sat on those chairs.
Because we know you.
Are you saying I'm high maintenance?
It's a good compromise.
Well, I can just tell you three gentlemen, I mean, Mr. Sherman already knows that we have ONU students again this semester. We're continuing to focus our time on the barn.
Do you want it on the record?
No.
yeah. And where's John at?
He's waiting in the hall for David.
Okay, because
David
we're
arrives.
scheduled for 9:30. We do
Yes,
have
sir,
a-
I know that.
Okay, go ahead.
So, we have, this is not on the record, this is just me chatting with them while we're stalling, waiting for David to show up. I didn't use that word. So we're continuing to work on the barn. Last semester, we had 6 students who were taking the introduction to history. And so we started doing things in the barn. Now I have 4 students this semester, and their course study is something with a title like the objects in the title, so they're a little higher up, you know, like.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Good morning, John. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
Please have a seat.
Good
morning.
Please have a seat.
Tim?
Hi, sir.
Fred? Good to see you.
John, David, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Jeff.
Joe, good seeing you. So Joe, your photo's up on the wall.
Yeah,
We got you in.
keeps mice away that way.
So after we met the last time, Joe was not on the board of commissioners yet. We talked in detail about things, and you asked for a plan going forward to see how we could move toward self-sufficiency. So I appointed a committee with David as the chair, Barb Wingfield, Casey Logger, and Chase Fleece to go back and do a strategic plan. And then I talked to Matt Jennings and asked him to be like a citizen representative, because he'd actually guided us through a planning process just before COVID hit. And then of course COVID put everything on hold. So their committee came up with some specific proposals, and Joe's aware of this. We reviewed it as a museum board and took the steps going forward that were action steps. A lot of us will wait the new director, but I'm gonna let David sort of walk you through that.
Yeah, so this ad hoc committee, the discussions that we were kind of having, it really kind of went into a mindset of what the museum should be doing. And with a recognition to what we're not doing as well as we could be doing. And number one, first and foremost, and this is why we're here, is fund development. Okay. As far as servicing the community, I mean, the museum hours were not ideal for our clientele or the local community. Public outreach efforts certainly need to improve, and then we also thought that you know, there's just some kind of engagement with traditional media and you know, the online stuff. It just needs to be more regular, more enhanced, professionalized, you know, whatever, however you want to say that, right? And then we kind of realized that to do this the way we want to do it, it's not a part-time job. It's not a part-time job. This isn't gonna happen with a 20-hour-a-week director. You know, one of the things that, you know, we heard loud and clear when we came in November is that, you know, if we were gonna get support from the commissioners, we needed to do something different. We needed to do something significant, radical, you know, whatever word you wanna use, but we can't keep doing the same thing. So, with that, with the, kind of the big recommendation that this ad hoc committee had was to hire a full-time director. Okay, which obviously is gonna cost more on the payroll, sort of things, but it is our hope, it's our intention that, if we get the right person in this position, that they can start addressing these shortcomings, namely fund development. Okay? So that's kind of the overall, I can hand you these, strategic,
Would you give them a copy?
yeah, I've got a strategic planning document, with a little more detail on some of that stuff. Now, the second part of this is that, is the money side of this, okay? And so, back in, well, our January meeting was delayed 2 weeks because of the weather. So in early February, which was the first meeting that Joe, attended, I presented, the implications on this as far as the finances go. And, I won't do to you what I did to everybody at that meeting where I was handing out little pieces of paper. So you listen to what I was saying at the moment. But I would start with, I started with this. You know, we have, kind of an endowment, we have an Edward Jones account, and, to kind of illustrate this situation to, the board, I was able to go back through these financial statements from this account, and, you know, back in 2016, all the way through 2022, I mean, the endowment was hanging in the low six figures, steady, you know, pretty steady, low six figures. In the last 2.5 years.
Very low six figures, not.
Yeah, low six figures. Just over 100,000, between 100 and 119 is where it peaked in 2018.
So during that period of time, it was pretty level.
Pretty low.
Pretty level.
Pretty low, yep.
At roughly 6 digits.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, in 2023, 2024, we've started to draw on that just to keep up the payroll and keep the lights on.
Why?
There was a time at an earlier.
No, when I say that, what changed from that point to what it was before? What changed?
That's what I was going to answer.
Okay.
And Tim can chime in on this also a little bit. We were very fortunate from time to time to get requests from people that allowed us to pour that money into operations as opposed to drawing on our reserves or our endowment. When COVID hit, Sheena was able to get a grant that actually covered payroll for a period of time. So different contingencies along the way allowed us to avoid tapping those funds. And then the market at different times spurted upward, which allowed it to grow. We haven't got any types of funds of that nature for the last 2 or 3 years, so by necessity, we've had to tap that reserve.
Okay.
So that's exactly why it's dropped.
And
Plus,
so
we've had some
the-
market,
The inability to get funds, like what you're talking about, that happened in the past.
Right.
So right now, in January, I haven't seen the most recent statement, quarterly statement from the account, but in January, the endowment was down to $48,000, which is not good. You want the endowment to grow, you don't want it to.
Especially if you had it up into the 6 figures not
Correct.
that long ago.
Not long ago. I mean, in January of 2022, there was $105,000 in that.
In January of 22,
Yep. 105.
105.
And this is During this time, it's part-time staff? Not
Yes.
full-time with any benefits or anything like that. So you're running the bare minimum.
And then, your most recent is 48, you say?
Yes,
And that is as of when?
January of
Of
25.
25.
Correct.
So that 3-year period.
Correct.
So we went from 105 to 81 to 65 to 48, we just had to continue pulling.
So, but the result of that is, like we're talking about, is a huge decrease in the 3-year period. And so what amount of that decrease was related to expenses? More expenses? Did you have more expenses the last 3 years than what you'd had before?
Not significantly, I just think.
So the expenses have pretty much been the same.
We held them at that level because we really have no choice.
Yeah.
We can't cut much more out of it and then have the museum open. It's just on the revenue side.
It's just all on the revenue.
So what this looks like, I mean, our expenses annually are about $50,000 a year. And currently, in the current situation with a part-time staff, 50,000, 50 grand. And we bring in about $25,000 in revenue, which you don't have to be a
So that's what's right.
mathematician to see that there's a $25,000.
You're right down about
Threshold.
75, yeah.
And so that's what we've had to deplete the endowment, and so if we maintain the status quo, I mean, in 2 years, the museum is kaput. Because we won't have any money, you know, we'll be out, so, now, a second scenario that, sounded maybe like an option, or a possibility, in November, was if there was an injection from the commissioners of $25,000, and that was the number that was mentioned. Again, if nothing changes in the way that the museum operates, $25,000 gives a 1-year stay of execution, but it doesn't, you know, if nothing fundamentally changes, then.
Nothing that's sustainable.
Exactly, it's kicking the can down the road
That's right.
a year, that's all it's doing,
That's all it's doing.
okay? And so this is the situation that the committee kind of wanted to address with this proposal to hire a full-time director, okay? Radical change, it is, but if we don't, we already know how this thing's gonna end. And we even know when it's gonna end too, okay? This committee, and Matt Jennings was a real help in strategizing this thing. And kind of with him, helping us kind of feel our way through the dark a little bit, he suggested don't project out just 3 years, but go 5. See what this looks like, with perhaps some stepped down contributions, as a proposal, you know, that, would give the museum time to turn the corner to profitability, to self-sustainability, and that's really what we want. And we think, you know, with the right person in this position, that fund development can increase. Again, it takes, in a small community, it takes time to establish those relationships, you know, when you're asking people for businesses for funds, but, you know, hopefully within, you know, 2 to 3 years, we will not require any commissioner funding, and we'll be able to hold steady. And then, and after, you know, years 4 to 5, the world's our oyster. Hopefully that endowment, you don't even need to draw on it, and that can just grow. So, I have some of these, budget sheets, if I could just pass them to you, this is kind of what we put together. Joe, you've already seen kind of a version of this. The third option was, again, that was helped quite a bit with Matt Jennings on board. Most of these numbers are rounded for, you know, ease of use. Again, we're not focused on the tens and the hundreds place. We're looking at the thousands place. That's what we're looking at. And so you'll see in this third option, this projection has a year one funding injection of $25,000, and then step down contributions for a 3-year total, and then nothing after that. So that's an ask. It's a big ask.
I think 5-year projections are fine. I have no problem with 5-year projections, but I also think we need to look at this a year at a time. And so we're trying to get through 2025 to start. And whether the new director can come on board and raise the amounts that David is contemplating is something we'll find out on the ground when that person is in place. But for now, we need your help to get through 2025.
And one more thing I might just mention that's not on this sheet. In November, when we were in here, I had just kind of mentioned or floated a possibility of something happening, and in the intervening months it did come to fruition, which is good. That I had, you know, on behalf of the museum, I had applied for a pretty sizable grant from an arts group, an arts council in Minnesota. And this thing was successful to the tune of $110,000. 75,000 of that will go right into park improvements over in Algier, in Hardin County, right? So, there is some money that the museum as a nonprofit organization can apply for and kind of realize that, you know, my employer in Ohio Northern, we're too big, we can't apply for it. A town can't apply, you know, a county can't apply for it, but, you know, a nonprofit entity, you know, in a cultural organization can apply for those things. Okay? And so, you know, bringing in that kind of money to the county, I mean, it's I don't think it's anything to, you know, shake your fist at. I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I mean, I don't know how many entities in you know, in the county could have applied for that particular grant from the Arts Council in Minnesota, but, you know, bringing money in from out of the county, this is a positive.
You apply also for community grants and things like that?
We do, but those aren't nearly on the scale that, I mean, we get money from United Way, Community Foundation, but, I mean, those grants are in 4 figures. They're certainly not the 6. I mean, last summer, we also got one from the Ohio legislature to the tune of $40,000. And we're being smart with it, you know, when we put them in short-term CDs or we put them in money market accounts just so we can generate a little bit of interest until we actually use the funds. And then the first $85K of that big grant, it's already dropped into our coffers. And the last 25 will be realized in June.
I did talk to Brad's office about the levy possibility. You know, that years ago he had issued a memo that said that we weren't eligible for a levy, which I've always disagreed with certain reasoning in his letter, but, I asked them, they saw, his article in the paper where we talked about the fact that Brad had said we couldn't have a levy, so they reached out to me and they went over the whole issue again, and they are not changing their minds at this point. So we're still not eligible.
You're still not eligible for.
According to the prosecutor, to ask the public to support us with a levy. So there's two ways the county can help us. One is put a levy on the ballot, but that's not possible at the moment, or, what we've discussed with you.
David, it sounds like you actually thought outside the box on this. You're either gonna hit a grand slam or
Strike out.
strike out. But in my opinion, what's been working hasn't worked. You know, just as a new guy sitting here. So I do think you are on the right track. It looks like you're actually gonna go for corporate sponsors, which would be a good thing. Get your name out there so people actually know we have a museum. It's a very nice museum. I wanna congratulate you. That is wonderful, that grant. That is monumental. So, I don't think you hear enough praise sometimes, but that is. So, I appreciate everything you've done for this museum for Hardin County. So,
Let's go a little bit more in detail. Let's get into the weeds a little bit more. You're looking at, I'm assuming, option number 3, the scenario number 3.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go through that line item by line item, okay? Right now, in January of 25, you're looking at expenditures of $70,000. Now, that's increased by $20,000 from the previous scenarios, and I'm assuming that's because of the addition of a full-time employee.
It is, that kind of depends on how soon or how long it takes to onboard, you know.
Right,
this
right,
person.
but you've got the same value.
Yes.
Every year after that,
I
a
do.
12-month period of
I do,
time.
yeah.
So I'm assuming that all of that is related to a new person.
Correct.
Okay, so we're gonna add $20,000 to the expenses, and your plan is to maintain those expenses at $70,000 during the course of time throughout going down 26, 27, 28, right?
Well, it's a number you can work with. I mean, you could.
Yeah,
round up
but
some-
this is
some
your.
small percentage
This
for a
is,
raise.
no, this is your plan.
Yeah.
This is your plan,
Right.
that you're gonna keep the expenses at $70,000 each year, going down all the way to 30,
That's what you
Correct.
proposed.
correct? Okay? Revenue, 65,000. Now, I see footnotes here, number 2, help me understand what the 65 means. In the revenue for January 25.
If you read the footnote, it's.
Yeah, I know, but I
estimating-
want you to explain to me. I can read it, but
Yes.
I want to explain it.
So, the hope is, that 65, where that comes from. We start with the base of 25 that the status quo already brings in. So where does that extra $40,000 come from?
Yeah.
The 40,000 comes from a 25,000 injection from
Yeah.
the commissioners. And then, we hope that this new director would be able to generate an additional 15,000 this year in various corporate sponsorships or other fund development.
So this new director would be, how would this new director work in getting that 15,000 additional revenue? What would they do?
This is, some of the solutions that are proposed in the sustainability, document. Probably the biggest one would be expanding corporate partnerships locally.
Okay, and again, you're working on that right now as we're talking,
Yes.
corporate sponsorships.
We are, I mean, we have some connections, but I think they need to be enhanced, with the touch.
And the full-time person, one of that person's main jobs would be reaching out with corporate connections.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then that would give that person the full time to be able to go and travel, talk to people, go to their office, talk to them, sit down, do things like this, do things like that, and to get that corporate.
Yeah, I mean, right now, or for the last couple of years, I mean, the museum has been open, what is it? Wednesday through Friday,
12 to 4.
12 to 4, which, you know, there's not a lot of people that can get to the museum at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday. And the second part of this is, of this sustainability, proposal is a recognition that we need to be open when people can actually visit.
So what kind of hour?
The weekends, Friday, it's service industry more or less, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 12 to 5.
Oh, okay, so that would be.
That's the proposed.
That's what.
New hour, that's the whole new hour, so this new director during the week, that is the time.
That person's working on the corporate sponsorship.
Works with corporate sponsorship, get into school classrooms, when students are in school, you know, that's the during the week.
I can see that as having some influence. If the kids know about it, they go home and say, hey, mom, dad, why don't we try it, let's go there this weekend, take a look at it. Again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the time frame again is.
12 to 5.
And Fred, a lot of this is in that document I passed out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been, I mean, we're in communication with other county museums kind of in the area. Ron Marvin up in Upper Sandusky, in Wyandotte County, I mean, it was his suggestion of these hours, is it works for us. It works, he says, you know, during the week, either I've got, you know, and not every day, not necessarily every week, but, you know, he's got school groups coming to the museum, he goes to school classrooms, and that's what happens in the fall, that's what happens in the spring. And museum patrons, they show up on the weekends. Now, if there's some, you know, odd request during the week, you can service that, but that's, you know, that would be by, you know.
What would be the hours of your full-time employee?
So in the museum, you know, public history, museum world, it's, it can be a little in flux. It's kind of an as needed. I mean, I think this is probably a 40 to 50 hour a week job, but depending on what events are happening, what classroom visits are scheduled, what fundraising events, you know, whatever, how that shakes out on the calendar. It might vary a little bit, but I think there's probably, you know, at least 30 hours a week, you know, where this person is gonna be, and then they will allocate, you know, the rest of the hours depending on the particular week.
So it's somewhat of a framework that you would be wanting to work with would be Monday through Friday for roughly 6 hours each day.
Something, yeah, I mean, they would be a presence on the weekend as
And,
well.
there would, maybe one day it'd be a little bit more, another a little bit less.
That's right.
Somewhat of a framework, you're looking at 30 hours for 5 days, I'm thinking ballpark 6 hours a day, on average, and then that person would be available for the weekend too, to make up like 40 hours if you're doing 40 hours a week.
Sure.
We anticipate this being salaried, I think, but 40 would be the minimum we would expect.
Right. Is this person a salary person?
That was
Yeah.
my understanding.
It would be a salary person.
That's the intention.
So their day off would be the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday.
You know, all of this would have to be developed. It may be that, we're gonna have to have some of the board members volunteer to keep the museum open occasionally, because nobody should have to work every weekend, 52 weeks out of the year. So some of this will flex, as David said, but we're not gonna beat them into the ground and they quit it on us.
That'd be a good thing.
We're going to work with the new director, and if they can cover the weekends to begin with, great. But we don't expect them to work 60 or 70 hours a week.
I mean, as far as a regularly scheduled day off, I mean, it's kind of hard to predict, because if there's some fifth grade social studies teacher that wants to bring their students on Tuesday, we're not gonna say no. We're gonna welcome them with open arms, and maybe the director doesn't work on Wednesday, you know, whatever. I think as a service to the community, we need to be that flexible.
And I'm assuming you've probably, because we're looking at doing this here relatively soon, have you talked to anybody yet as to a potential candidate for this position?
We've gotten two very qualified candidates, one just arrived yesterday and one about a week ago, and a number of other people that, probably aren't as well qualified. So hopefully, very soon, we will start meeting by Zoom with these candidates, and if we're lucky, we'll hit the jackpot.
Okay, so you've got potentially two people that you're looking at.
Already.
For this. If you are wanting to go with this option 3 and everything works out that way, when would you want to bring this person on board?
As soon as they can come.
Hmm?
As soon as they can come.
Depending on where they're from, I mean, they might have to move.
I mean, the
You
most
know.
recent one currently took a job with the National Park Service at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. But in view of the cuts that are anticipated, I'm guessing his job is somewhat precarious,
Could be.
but he's from Ohio. So the letter he sent, which I just got last night, was very upbeat about coming back to Ohio and pursuing a totally different public history focused
And I
career.
haven't had a chance to tell John yet, I mentioned it to David, I thought it was going to be coming. We also received a very qualified one at 7 AM this morning, and that person had originally seen it through Indeed.
I haven't seen that one yet. So maybe we have a third.
Yes,
Good.
I just,
Yeah.
So the job is posted on a number of job boards in the Midwest Museums Association, Ohio Local History Alliance, Ohio Museums Association, you know, so folks kind of in that space see it. I email every public history or museum studies program director across the state of Ohio and various universities, and they've passed it along, so.
Okay, let's continue on that first line on current year, January 25. So we know what the 70 represents, we know what the 65 represents as far as revenue stream. And take the difference of the two, and that's the annual net of -5.
Yep, that's correct.
Endowment, it says 50. So, basically you've got 50, and of that, you'll pull 5 out of that to get you down to the next year of 45 balance.
Correct.
When you start 26.
That's correct.
Correct, okay. You're doing the same thing in 26. And again, -5, so that brings you down to an endowment for the start of 27, at 40,000, correct?
That's correct, but I will say, in the January 2026, while our revenue is it's still 65, a contribution from the commissioner's been stepped down by 10,000, and it's our hope that.
Which means that you're seeing the results coming from your full-time
That's correct.
person
That's correct.
in your plan. And that then in 27, you're looking again at the expenses of 70, and you're looking at revenue of 70, so it means that in your plan, of that 70, it would come from your resources that you have that are generated, plus 10 from the commissioners,
Correct.
correct? Okay. And with that, you're at a break even,
Yes.
and you've maintained that 40 endowment for another year. And then the next year, you're doing the same thing, but you have nothing from the commissioners, but that person, the full-time person, the sponsorships is now increasing by that $10,000 to take care of that void. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, 10, 40, okay. Then comes in 29, your plan is, okay, we're still gonna be at 70,000 expenses. revenue's gonna be now 80,000. You're having nothing from the county as far as commissioners go, so everything is just basically internal revenue stream.
That's a projection, and then after that, I mean, I don't, there's probably a ceiling to how much
Sure.
money that, you know, the museum can raise, but.
It's like anything else, that in order to do something, you have to know what it is you wanna do. And then to basically temper yourself to try to make that happen. So it's a plan, it's a roadmap as to where you wanna get to by a certain period of time. So I appreciate, even though it took a little bit of time, I appreciate you walking me through this so that we know exactly where the money comes from and what it's all about.
Yeah, and I'll say from the early February board meeting, we had a couple of projections in here, and this option, this scenario 3 is a bit more conservative than the other 2 were. I think that was kind of a point of encouragement from the non-committee board members that were kind of hearing this for the first time, as well as Matt Jennings. You know, he's just, you know, don't think about this being wholly remedied in 3 years. Think out 5 years, yeah, and then we'll proceed there.
So what are you wanting us to do?
Well, this proposal envisions that you, contribute $25,000 to the museum this year. If you're inclined to do more, that would be great.
Gentlemen, any comments?
I think they've done their due diligence in putting together a plan. And, sounds like a good, to me, a good source for funding for the county as a gift. 1 year for 25,000, and review it each year for a while.
Absolutely.
Make sure your wheels don't fall off, or you get self-sustaining and don't need us anymore. So, I would make a motion to gift the museum, Hardin County Museums Incorporated,
Historical.
25,000 for 1 year, this year.
Second.
Come out of the general fund.
Tori, do you have that?
Got it?
Joe has second.
Okay. Roll call, Fred? Fred?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Tim?
Of course, yes.
Now, again, as Tim mentioned when he made the motion, that we're looking at 25, we see, quite frankly, you've done pretty much what we asked for back in November, to come back with, thinking out of the box and with the revenue stream. Commissioner Crowe said, you need to provide something, revenue streams that are coming down in the future. And I mentioned the same thing when we had our meeting in November, the fact that we needed something that, to represent that $25,000, how you want to make that up in time. And to me, I like seeing a 5-year plan. It helps to understand your road you're going down, but then it also helps you that as you're going down this road to adjust to make sure that you still stay on that plan so that you can meet the next year's objectives and the next year's objectives and the next year. So this is a roadmap that I feel is the way to go for a 5-year period of time. So keep that in mind as your expenses, as they start creeping around and everything, keep that in mind what your roadmap says. And keep in mind too what you are anticipating seeing from the revenue stream, and to work hard to make sure that that comes around. It has to come around. you know, it's one of those things, you've got a potentially a new person, and to justify that person being there, they need to show that revenue stream coming in from their activities. So I can see that happening. It's a roadmap. We'll see how good it is as time goes on. I certainly hope it is good. But let's go ahead and with that thinking, start the process with this roadmap for 2025 and see what happens then, okay?
Thank you very much.
Anything else, guys? It's,
Thank you for bringing together the plan.
now keep in mind, we'll continue to do what we've done in the past too. And of course, as you know, why, you know, utilities have always been taken care of by the commissioner, so you don't pay any utilities. Roughly speaking, I'm thinking that's between $8,000 to $10,000 a year. That if you notice, anytime there's needed maintenance for the facility, that the commissioners take care of that. You'll also notice too, that if there's lawn care, you know, landscaping, anything of that nature, that's also taken care of by the commissioner's office. So there's many, many things that the county provides other than just what we're talking about here. And we've been doing that over the years too. It's something where it's a cost that may be overlooked because it just automatically happens. But it's a true cost that the county does have regarding that. So, you know, you could look at that depending upon the year. It could vary. I know we've had in 2019, we had roughly about $20,000 worth of expense related to roofing, masonry, and historical markers. In 2020 was roofing and spouting over the garage, and also we had air conditioning repair units that added up another about 5,000 to 7,000. 21 we had roof repairs and retaining wall and porch work done that basically was very close to $35,000, just that. And in 22, we did some things with the attic, helping that out for about 1,000. Jack's Heating did some more work with the air conditioning unit and heating unit. So, you know, like that, these expenses that come through on the facility, the house itself, will fluctuate over time. But you can see over time, if you average all that out, that it's probably in the tune to at least $10,000 a year. In addition to the utilities, which is about $10,000 a year. Those are costs that, quite frankly, people can overlook. You don't even think about, oh my goodness. But honestly, they're true costs that's being taken care of by the county. So that, in addition to what we're talking about here, is something where we feel like we're doing a good part for the part of the museum itself that help keep things going.
And I think just for a note, there is a precedence of a revised code, I don't have it with me, that allows commissioners to support.
Absolutely, I
museum
think I
groups
passed
and
that out back in November, and I
Yeah,
can send
so
you a copy.
yeah, we might put that in the resolution, but, so we are allowed to give you money to support you by code, so.
And as I started to say before these two gentlemen arrived, that I'm sort of working on the barn with the generosity of ONU and the professor to give me students, so this 25,000, I'm sorry. The new director, if we have an event out there, then they would help, but I'm not seeing them making that barn into what we envision, what I envision. May I clarify the moment?
Well clarified.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Any questions?
Appreciate the support.
Fair enough.
I'll send you that code section.
I always say this is.
Do you have any extra papers?
Is it fair enough? Okay.
Yeah, do you have the budget numbers too?
Each year we.
Yeah, I made some notes on this copy.
Okay, is that both of them?
Very much
Yeah.
appreciated.
Okay.
This is two-sided and that's
Okay,
the budget.
yeah, well, congratulations.
It's a fictional copy.
Yeah, okay, all right.
You wanna give him a copy of the budget numbers?
Yeah, that would. So this 25,000 is gonna go towards utilities, I'm guessing?
No, general operations,
General
salaries,
operations, okay.
expenses. The commissioners pay the utilities because they own the building,
Right, good.
correct?
What's that now?
You pay the utilities because you
We
own the
pay all
building.
the
This is
utilities
not
and
going toward
the
utilities.
maintenance of.
And the
so-
insurance, that wasn't mentioned.
Okay.
You
Plus
guys pay
lawn care and
insurance, don't you?
landscaping.
You guys pay the insurance?
John,
Yes. yes.
John, we'll keep these numbers. We'll be looking at your final results in
Good job.
2025 to see how those expenses look to $70,000.
We will be in continuous contact.
Okay?
Thank you.
Sir?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Papers will be in here very shortly.
I was impressed. A presentation,
I think,
well thought
quite
out.
frankly, they did.
Well, that's-
And, you know, I'm impressed with the fact that they came with a plan, they have, like I said, a roadmap. And all we need to do is follow that. If we see, get off that roadmap a little bit, then we have to tweak it and get back on it.
Can I make copies of that for myself?
Oh, I'm sorry. There you
Thank
go.
you. Sorry, I had to step away. I have the school nurse calling me because I have a kid in the office that needs to leave school, so.
Okay.
Yeah, just one of the kids was,
Thank you.
so that's why I stepped away and said, yes, that's fine. I got it all handled. Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah. Richard was still waiting on his, the guy that's meeting him here for this meeting. Good morning.
Good morning. You're running behind,
How far behind?
about 15.
Well, I'm in Rick. 307.23 is revised code for museums. If anybody's interested.
Thank you. John said he'd email it to me too, but I told him I probably had it still from his last meeting, but.
That's the old copy that I just looked at.
Do you hear me say you're about 15 minutes behind? You're about 15 minutes behind.
Top of the cut it off. Three,
I see 307.23.
307.23 of a high-rise code.
307.23?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair.
There you go.
What comes up is a little different in language, if you look it up on the laptop. Says Historical Society of 307.23.
Do you wanna start looking through some of those journals while we wait, since we're 15 minutes out?
Can I do it in here? Just the latest one would be fine.
Okay. Cause October starts in 112.
Yeah, no, just do the most current one.
Coming in now. Yeah, you're the boss, what do you want?
Says Richard's here.
Doug? Good. I'm here.
If you guys could sign these, that's the Title 4D contract, I thought we only needed to sign, but we actually needed resolutions with them, so we've already made the motions. I just need your signatures on the actual resolution, not just the contract.
Oh, I see. Here you go. I needed the resolutions for those signings.
Some people have tried.
Okay.
Hello.
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 Hi, how are you today, sir?
Good. I'm Tim Manigan.
Tim? Fred Rush, nice to meet you.
Yep, Tim Striker.
Glad to meet you.
Jerry Sherman.
Glad to meet you. Thank you. I wanted to bring Tim in today. I've had him look at the North Annex and the floor situation up there. We discussed a few things, and I was telling him to go out in the hall. I don't like being the middleman. Sometimes, I wanna make sure that you get it straight from the horse's mouth, and that way I don't screw anything up.
Makes sense.
So, I want him to, kind of go over a little bit what he sees, what he thinks needs to be done, where we need to go, and go from there, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, here's I tried to just give you a short outline of what probably needs to be done. How much have we gone through, any other?
Nothing.
John actually had me down to look at it and so forth, and we do, in Finley, we do custom remodeling, remediation work, mold and fire and water. There's a lot of mold damage in Finley area and so forth, because we're flat, so essentially somehow the water damage got severe down there and then rotted out the eye joist. And then it probably had to be remediated with the mold and so forth, and then they put plastic down and spray foamed it, which is an ideal way to try to deal with it. So the eye joists have completely disintegrated. I only went down and saw just a few underneath the north door area there. I could see somewhat both ways, and it would need to be inspected, but as you go and look probably to the south, it looks like it's even worse. That must be the room that caved in. Anyways, what somebody did is they put treated 2x12 joists, because the eye joists are 12-inch. They put treated 2x12 joists next to the eye joist and ran it over to the outside mud sill. And he has a diagram of the way the building was built. Typically, you would have a mud sill and block on our houses. And then in this case, because they want the floor to be sitting down, then they created a outside block that you see from the outside of the building, but on the inside, the floor sits into that block, and you have a block this wide down below, and then half of that space is the outside block on the top towards the parking lot. On the inside, your floor sits partially on the lower block. So in essence, when I went down there, it has, on the drawing, it shows 2 mud sills. One's a 2x4, one's a 2x6. So as you go in to look at it, the 2x6 mud sill is tipping down, probably from the weight, and then they put a piece of 3/8 inch plywood shim in there to try to fill that spot. And so when you're building something, and I was gonna check the building code, which we don't have an enforced building code, but in places where you have a correct building code enforced, usually you have to have 2 inches of bearing is typically the minimum onto a structure. So I reached in to measure, and it looks like the new treated floor joist sits on about 1.125 inches of the substantial mud sill. So you have a 2x6 mud sill and a 2x4 mud sill. The replacement joist sits onto that lower mud sill maybe 1.125 inches. So the weight that's on the mud sill, I don't know why they didn't go farther with it in there, but the weight of the building is just pushing down that mud sill. It'd be like our home where we're only sitting on the support wall just enough, and the board it's sitting on is starting to roll down like that.
Oh, I see.
So
it's kind of rolling off.
yeah, and then I actually have the picture, I think, that if I can pull it up again here.
Yeah, I sent you pictures of him, email one.
Yeah. Here is actually a spot where you can see it here. The treated joist is right here. And it may be, treated lumber typically isn't structural lumber, although this does look fairly structural, because treated lumber you can put knots and so forth.
And then what they've done is, this is a mud sill right here, and then you have a second one here. I peeled off some of the insulation, and then they, for some reason, have put in a piece of 3/8 plywood, trying to fill in that gap. So, when you're building a building, you usually avoid that, and so, anyways, that's kind of in the substandard area, so. That was pretty much, if I was doing it and someone asked me to do it and they were in Florida, then I would look at and examine the whole wall. I would try to figure out why they didn't go farther. My guess is that they may not have been able to push it out far enough. You try to understand why they didn't go farther with it. To do it correctly, you should really take the mud sill out, and because the way the building is built there with those step block, the easiest way to access it is to take a sheet of plywood off against the outside wall, be able to get down in there, support the joists, pull out the old mud sill, correct that, make sure that behind the mud sill and that outside block in your diagram of the blueprint, that there's a membrane, metal, something to keep the water moisture from coming in. Yeah, it's not really rocket science, the mold is just water works quickly. So, and then try to loosen that joist that's there and just slide it down. So, the problem is the eye joists are so bad, and my guess is in the area down there, that trying to push the floor up may be somewhat of a challenge. You may have to push up, the joists are 16-inch on center, so you may have to push up around it and have one free and work and get one out there. The ideal thing, usually you try to replace, I hope I'm not losing you in this description. Sometimes I can keep going on with the details, but you try to replace a 4-foot section of mud sill if you can. It's a little awkward when you get smaller, you try not to put in a lot of small pieces. So that's really, you just need to, whoever does the work needs to correct it and probably pull the mud sills out and replace that, because if you're gonna spend the money to go down there, you might as well make sure the mud sill's right. You're gonna have the same problem. And then remediation wise, I would put, and I mentioned to him, put a dehumidifier down there, a commercial one. When we do remediation work, they have a supplier down by the Columbus Airport, Clean Serve, and so I sent the information, or I called him, gave him the information of the building size, and then he gave me some specs back. You probably have to buy probably 2 units to put down there to run. As I mentioned in the Finley area with mold, when you have moisture in flat territory, it's a natural thing, and so a lot of times, the architects now, for the last 8-10 years or longer, try to encapsulate a crawl space, whereas we used to have foundation vents was typical. Now they like to shut those off, make it maintained so you don't have the humidity in and out. And then a lot of times you take plastic and you completely enclose the crawl space. Spray foam is fantastic. And then usually you have to put a dehumidifier in there, so. Anyways, so we don't necessarily have to do the work, we happen to be called on it.
Sure.
We get a lot of, and I've talked to our guys about if they wanted to do it, they've done that before. It's just, you need somebody to be thorough. And then on the health and safety side, then whoever would work on it should have, and I had it in the sheet there of breaking down roughly what would be done. They should try to get fresh air in, and then so that you don't push the sawdust, any mold you might stir up that should be dried up and so forth, into the existing building. You should have what they call a negative air situation where you're pulling more air out. And then worst comes to worst, which I did mention to you, if you have guys working and you're in those 2 separate buildings where the file shelves need to be pulled back and the boxes reset aside as you work along, were there any opening windows in there?
Yeah.
Okay, is to open the windows to try to get fresh air going across. So most of the time when guys practically are working in this type of thing, they can go a few hours at it, but then the next day when they're there, they're having a sore throat, so you try to have a respirator on and everything, so. Anyways, that's, the one note is, when we went to look at it and he showed me it, the area that seems to be caving in the most is at the door.
The door or to the door to the north end of the building, at the north wall. So I think, from what I've seen, actually, I don't see one bad spot. I think they both,
Okay,
I think to the west and to the east of the door are both kind of failed.
okay, I wasn't sure if, it was surprising that where there's no weight from the rooms with the storage and the boxes, that those aren't going down more than where the door is sitting, so. And the only thing I can see, cause that's where I looked at it, is that the floor joist is only sitting on, and the bearing below it is probably giving way, so. That's the long but short explanation, so. And I say one more thing, and that is, in remediation work, I have noticed that when you hire different companies, and I'll tell homeowners that, is that it really depends on the specific guys that company hires and how thorough and conscientious they are. So, that's, which is true in a lot of areas, but especially in that. You have to have, you guys specifically that are working on it that are conscientious enough to pull it out, do it right, and so forth, so.
So what's the next step? Do we, I mean, something we would, I need to get the bid out?
Well, I did have a suggestion on it.
Okay.
At the bottom of the sheet here, I did, what might be a good suggestion is, to perhaps do an 8-foot section in that hallway, the side of the door, in front of the door, and see what it really takes to replace an area that's fairly easy to replace. You know, open the floor, pull the plywood out, try to repair it, is the mud still rotted, how does it really look, and so forth. I'm really guessing in cost. I mean, I figured, you know, $3,500 means you're going every 8 feet, $3,500 is pretty cheap, that's hard to beat. 4,500, I have 5,500, 6,500, you won't really know until you get in there and see, you know. Thankfully, the wall sits on a separate area on the block. If it didn't, and we were pulling everything out, then it would be a major, you know, undertaking, so. So I guess roughly $4,500 every 8 feet, but even
Every
8 feet, yeah, and you've got.
About 4,500, you say?
Yes, yeah, and it, as I said, I am speculating at that, so, yeah.
So I mean, that's what, if you suggest that we take an 8-foot section out and right there at the door and see what it needs, see what it's gonna take to do it, I think we go and we have them do it. And get it taken care of, I mean, just get it moving and get it taken care of. If you're willing to do that.
Yes, I just remembered, one of the things as we went through this, when I returned to Findlay, we've been working with Encompass Engineering in Findlay. And so I happened to call the engineer because I wanted to find out about the I-joist with a 12 or a 2x12 next to it and the load and the weight above it and so forth. And apparently they must have been called in the beginning in 2017. Somewhere when they did have the original problem, and he said, yeah, their company actually went in and loaded up on what to do. And I guess that wasn't pursued farther, maybe some other solution was found, but the engineer there, the fellow's name is Reed. I would suggest that you have him come down and look at it. I've spoken to him, he said he's more than willing to come down. Cost-wise, to look at it, there's no cost, and he could give you an idea of it.
So again, you're thinking 4,500 every 8-foot section. So I'm just kind of ballparking, based on $45,000 total cost, you're talking about 10 separate 8-foot sections, correct?
Yes, and actually there's another 3, because the building's 101 feet, so I'm probably low on it if it costs that much. You try to get farther and cut out more, but the problem is as you go to the left or south, you actually can see the I-joist disintegrated and fall down partly, so yeah. So whatever you do there, I would put dehumidifiers down there, cause if the moisture and humidity returns, you know, yeah, and then if it goes worse, your treated won't rot, but the rest of it, but when the smell starts, again, then you're gonna have people in the building that are affected by it, and then, you know, we have other areas where they'll call us, and that's, you know, so, yeah.
So it sounds like our first step is get a hold of that engineer, Richard,
Mhm.
and that way, they won't get a game plan.
Yeah.
So what's your timeline?
I would say that it would take them to look at it, maybe it would take them a couple weeks to come up with something. We probably could come down and do a section in a few weeks.
Okay.
I mean, we have other projects we're doing, but that could be done, you know, so I would say within the next month, you know, one of the areas.
Okay.
So,
So you do that for, well, you would rather have an engineer look before you do anything, or?
yeah, it would be, you don't wanna go in there and do the work without having them look at it. You know, you wanna make sure it's done correctly.
Okay.
If you pass the information to Richard as far as the engineering firm.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly what I wanted.
There you go.
Well, definitely, do something.
Yeah.
Leave it like that, so.
So again, sir, you're located out in the Finley area then?
Yes.
Okay, how many years has been in existence?
Our business?
Mhm.
How long we
The
been?
company,
Since 2003.
2003.
Yeah.
So it's over 20 years old?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but actually, I thought of that driving down, and then I worked for a good friend of mine for years before that, and then I got my contractor's license probably in 1986, so it kind of dates me, so it isn't really rocket science what needs to be done, it's just you gotta get in there somehow, which can be difficult, and the moisture isn't rocket science, but when moisture's not dealt with, the degree of rot that you have on the I-joist would be considered fairly substantial, you know, when it deteriorated to that point, so that may be something you want him to look at. I would have him look at it because looking down there, you can, as I said, you can see him actually falling down, and that degree of rot, to me, would be very concerning. I'd want to go down there and make sure that, you know, how does the plywood look? The plywood looked great that I looked at, but, yeah. So,
Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Very well.
yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
We don't have anything else scheduled here, and your Board of DD chiller update will be at the Board of DD.
Okay, yeah, again, that will be at 1:30 then.
Correct.
Okay. Guys, I think we're set till 1:30. Sounds good. It's okay if you guys will leave.
Yeah,
there.
so you can.
Yep.
I think some of the stuff I can get from out there, or maybe it's already out there, like that percolations and stuff. So just pull it all.
That should,
Delete
yeah,
my
you should have
record
all that, well, I'll just hold off on it for now.
Cause if I just get going back through and seeing what I missed, you know, then.
And a lot of that stuff you can find on his fund reports online.
It'll be interesting to see once it goes live. Cause he says it's gonna look a little different and.
Yeah.
I'll have all the things. I know it's happy. So anyways, just, yep, just, you can just delete it. We'll just-
Alright.
We'll do this other way.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mhm.